Hey guys, I'm Angela and welcome back to Hobby Night. Today, I want to take a look at the first look video that Magic the Gathering has dropped for their upcoming standard set featuring Final Fantasy. All 16 games, which by the way, just kind of boggles my mind that they're gonna cram 16 games into a single set. However, I am also incredibly hyped for this particular set to come out. Final Fantasy, while it had its own TCG itself, is a collab that I had hoped Magic would do pretty much since I got into Magic, because I just thought it would end up looking so gosh darn cool, and it's finally happening. So let's watch this video, and then after we watch the video, we'll take a little bit of a more in-depth look at the individual cards and talk about them in a little bit more detail, because I think some of the cards in this particular set are going to be very spicy, and I'm curious to know your thoughts about them as well. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the video.
Welcome to the first look at Magic the Gathering Final Fantasy.
Yay!
The legends from 16 games are represented in this set, which includes 4 commander decks. Featured in the 4 decks are Terra, Herald of Hope from Final Fantasy VI.
Okay, I'm not as familiar with her because I haven't played
Soldier
6.
from Final Fantasy VII.
Cloud, however, I am familiar
Tidus,
with.
Yuna's Guardian
Tidus
from
as
Final
well.
Fantasy
I love 10.
And Y'shtola, Knights Blessed.
And I'm playing
Final
through
Fantasy
14 right now, and I'm loving it. She
Which card
is
will
amazing.
command your deck?
We'll take a look at these
In this
cards.
set, you'll find the boss
Jumbo
monsters you love
Cactar!
from Final Fantasy.
I love this particular, the full art version. It's gorgeous. Yumeko did a great job, and he looks just absolutely stunning. I have no idea what the pull rates for some of these cards are yet. I haven't taken a look at that because I know that they do tell you, but I am hoping to get that full art card. It would be so cool.
Like on this Jumbo Cactuar card. And this Sin Spear's Punishment card.
Not gonna lie, I want the full art of that too.
And the whimsy of Final Fantasy is here
Tonberry!
too. Check out these Tonberry, Stiltskin Moogle Merchant,
Oh, the Moogles! They're so
and
cute!
Saz's Chocobo cards.
Oh, there's probably gonna be some amazing
Double-faced
Chocobo
cards
cards.
show character progression or different forms of the same creature.
Oh, he
For
looks
example,
so cool.
Garland, Knight of Cornelia, becomes Chaos the Endless.
Oh, I think, now I'm not as familiar with Garland because I think that's from Final Fantasy 1, if I remember correctly, but the sort of aesthetic for the Garland knights and everything is also what they did in 12 for the judges, and I think most of the time, like even in 14, they have characters who have that sort of same aesthetic, and they're always the bad guys. They look so cool.
With matched increase to power and toughness.
Awesome.
Cecil Dark Knight and Cecil Redeemed Paladin reflect Cecil's journey in Final Fantasy IV.
Oh, the anime versions. Okay, I want those ones too. Oh, the borderless character cards are great. I mean, the regular cards are also fantastic. I do love the art there, but oh, those borderless cards. Especially the redeemed version. He's so cute. I love him.
This Emmett Selk Unsundered card becomes Hades,
badass.
Sorcerer of Eld.
Oh, let's see his anime card.
Side.
Come on.
With side quests, catch a
they didn't
fish.
show it. I wonder
You
if
can
he
go
has one.
fishing, then turn the card over.
Oh my god. That's so cute. You go fishing, you turn it over, and then you get to cook?
And cook the fish with Cooking Campsite to produce a food token card.
Oh, I love how much they're
New in this
catering
set
to
are
the
summons,
games.
shown here on this Shiva card. Summons are
Like, to
saga
the fans of
creatures
Final
that
Fantasy,
combine
that is.
features of a saga and a creature.
I also
so you can
love-
go through the steps of the saga and attack.
Let me pause them real quick. I love that they have treated the summons as sagas, because obviously in the games, if you've ever played a Final Fantasy game, the summons are temporary. They're usually not there for an extremely long period of time, even in your combats, and you can usually summon multiple throughout your combats, especially if you're fighting a boss or something like that. And in fact, you probably want to. And I love that they are treated as sagas, because sagas are also not meant to be on the board permanently. And that's so perfect. And also, can we just, that borderless woodblock art card. Oh, it's just so good. I want it. So I want all of the borderless art cards is basically what I'm telling you right now. And I'm going to probably spend way too much money on this particular set. Let's continue.
Attack or defend at the same time. The Final Fantasy Through the Ages bonus sheet features well-known art from Final Fantasy's history. Dragon at Mount Gulk features art by Yoshitaka Amano.
If you guys have ever watched this channel and seen any of my like unboxings or pack openings for Magic in the past, you will know that I love Yoshitaka Amano's art. I specifically bought into the what was it called? Something Spark. War of the Spark cards because I wanted the Yoshitaka Amano. I forgot her name now. Liliana. The Yoshitaka Amano Liliana card. I was like, I need that. I need that card in my life. And I actually pulled it. I was so pleased with myself. But I will also be trying to collect every Yoshitaka Amano card that's possibly in this set because it's so good. Look at the line weight. Just look. I could gush about this man's work for hours. I will not. Let's keep going.
And Yuffie Kisaragi.
Nomura is also just like quintessential to Final Fantasy. And look how freaking cute Yuffie is. She's so adorable. I love this classic. Like, I love that they're getting the actual artists who work on the Final Fantasy games to do art for the cards. That just pleases me so much.
Shows art from Tetsuya Nomura. You'll find these favorites and more you love from Final Fantasy 1 through Final Fantasy 16. Sephiroth Planet's Heir and Cloud.
This is something I was really excited to see and did not actually anticipate that they were going to be doing. And I love that they are. And I also think Wizards, if you're listening, you could do easily starter sets with a number of the protag and antagonist of the various games. Like, easily you could do Sin and Tidus, etc. Like, there's tons that you could do. Do more of these little starter sets. I love them. It'll probably sell a shit ton. I'm so excited. And also, we're going to talk about these two cards, these two commanders, but Cloud especially is crazy. I think he's going to be really good. I think he's going to be really fun to play.
Face off and ready to play decks from the starter kit. Check them out. All of this and more in Magic.
I'm so excited for the fact that there's going to be a pre-release. Now, this is something that normally you wouldn't necessarily always see, especially with intellectual property crossovers like this. But because this is a set that is going into standard, they're doing a pre-release for it. So I will definitely be at my local game store participating in the Final Fantasy pre-release because I want to get my hands on those cards as soon as I possibly can. I also love the box art for this gift bundle. I don't know if gift bundles are as like cost effective as they used to be. I haven't looked at what the new MSRP for these are, but they used to be pretty good and they're probably going to still be pretty good. Although I suspect that these are only going to come with play boosters. Oh no, the gift bundle does include collector boosters, or a collector booster it says. But these ones come with play boosters. Play boosters, I think, are going to be pretty easy to find, although I expect them are going to sell out very, very quickly. I have no idea how easy it's going to be to actually get my hands on collector's boosters for Final Fantasy. I'm checking TCG Player like every day to see as soon as they start listing it because I want to get my hands on some of them. I'm so desperate for some of these cards. I think they're just going to be amazing and I want to play with them. I also want to buy both. And I don't know if this is actually going to happen, but like my nerd desire is to buy both all of the commander decks in their fancy full holo forms, but then also buy their normal versions so that I can actually play with them because there's no way I'm playing with these cards. I'm going to I don't even know if I'll unbox them. If I do, I'm going to sleeve every single one of them in a hard sleeve so that it's just available and they're there. Because they're so cool. But the commander decks in the full holo and the collectors are the things that I think are going to be the hardest things to come across. Everything else I still think is going to be relatively tough to come across, especially in stores because, and I just want to get this out now before we continue into the video and keep going, but I have seen some Magic YouTubers talking about how they think these prices are a little extreme and I don't think they quite understand how much of this product I think is going to end up being opened and go out there into the world, because Final Fantasy fans are rabid. And it's like, this is the biggest possible, I think, IP crossover Magic the Gathering could realistically do without straight just doing a standard set that was pure Marvel. Like, I don't know, like, I guess Star Wars. Like, Final Fantasy, in my opinion, is as large as both Marvel and Star Wars in regards to its fan base wants material from it and are ready to collect it and are rabid collectors. So I really think there's going to be a ton of this product going out into the world. I also think it's going to disappear very quickly, very early on, way faster than I think some people anticipate. Like, I think the pre-orders are going to go super fast for this one. And not just because of scalpers and stuff, but just because the Final Fantasy fans who aren't even interested necessarily in Magic, but want to get their hands on all of the beautiful art cards that we've been seeing, will be buying into this. So I'm just very excited for all of it, and I think it's gonna be fun. Let's continue on with the video and then start talking about those cards.
The Gathering Final Fantasy. Available June 13th.
June 13th.
Magic story.
All right, June 13th, 2025. And that's pretty much where the video ends. So I think we're going to go ahead and exit the full screen here. We'll go over here and let's start actually taking a look at some of these cards. Hey guys, I'm just jumping into the video to remind you to hit that subscribe button if you're enjoying the content that you find here. And if you're into the spicier side of the hobby, then I invite you to join my VIP page. New subscribers get 50% off their first month subscription. I hope to see you there. Now, let's go ahead and get back to the video. Let's talk about prices, because we've seen that there are a number of different products coming out for this particular set because it is in fact going into standard, which I, for one, am very excited for. I'm also just really excited to honestly build a lot of Final Fantasy-based commander decks because I think the commanders in this look really fun. And we'll take a look at the cards in more detail in just a moment. But I want to talk about price first, because I do know that online I've been seeing a lot of chatter about how some people think that this particular set is a little overpriced. And while $6.99 for a play booster is a little high, and normally I would say you tend to see play boosters be around $3.50 to maybe $4.99, depending on whether or not it's a Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh pack or a standard Magic pack that is not using an IP from another company. But that's the thing I want to just call out really briefly here to remind everybody that, like, yes, we are paying this money to Magic, but they had to pay Final Fantasy and Square Enix for the rights to use all this product. So we are paying a little bit of an extra tax because of that. And while, yes, that does make it more expensive than, say, a set that is set in a specific Magic-only universe, it makes sense to me that we're going to see slightly higher prices here. It does only make me sad because I know that I'm going to want to collect as much as I possibly can of this set, and my wallet is going to cry. But otherwise, I understand why we're seeing play boosters at $6.99, why the collector's boosters are $37.99 instead of being the $35.99 that they normally are. Commander decks are actually, I think, right around the same price that we normally see commander decks, which is nice to see. The standard ones are $69.99, nice. And of course, the collector editions are $149.99, which I think, for example, like when the Games Workshop collab happened and we got all those Warhammer 40k commander decks, I do think those were their starting prices. So again, I think we're just seeing a little bit of an IP tax here, and that's all it is. The bundle, again, $69.99, nice. The gift bundle, because it has collector's boosters in it, is a little bit more. It's $89.99. And then the starter kit is the standard $20, which I love that they were able to at least keep that one closer to their standard starter set decks. Because I want to say that modern starter sets, like the 2-player ones for Magic, tend to be about $20. I bought a whole bunch of them like 4 months ago, and I want to say that's about what I paid for all of them, except for maybe like a couple of them that were just older and a little bit harder to get. But really close to being the standard pricing. So I'm not super upset by this, but let me know. Do you think this is just slightly too high, even for being tied to Magic the Gathering and Final Fantasy and having to pay that Square Enix tax, or are you fine with this and you're just crying because you know you're going to be buying a lot of it like I am? Because that's really what I'm crying about. Because, oh my gosh, I want to try to get so many of the collector's booster boxes as I can, but like, I know they're going to be expensive. I know it's not going to be easy to get your hands on. Oh my gosh, but I do hope that because this is standard and it is supposed to be in rotation for a while, that we will eventually get some stabilization out of it and they'll become available at some point. And maybe I can even get my hands on some when they first release. But they have the play boosters coming out. We have the collector's boosters, which just be so good. The commander decks, I think, are all looking very solid. And we're going to take a look at, in closer detail at the commanders specifically. I don't know if they've told us who the alternate... Actually, it may say, if we zoom in further, can we see? 2 legendary traditional foils. I was just seeing if maybe on the box it told us who the other commander inside these are. Because normally, when we get the Magic commander boxes, they have the display commander, but there's usually a second commander that you can swap that one out for and just use it as a normal card. I assume in the Final Fantasy one for 7 that has Cloud, it's going to be Sephiroth is what it'll end up being. Just because we see him also in the starter set, which I wonder how much that's going to end up devaluing the Cloud and Sephiroth cards, just because they may be some of the most prevalently available, honestly, just because they do... Or, well, I don't know if Sephiroth does, but my assumption is that Sephiroth is somewhere in this deck and that you can get him basically through the starter set as well as this commander set, as well as the collector commander set. So he's going to be around. I don't think that one's going to end up being super expensive. Terra looks cool, but I'm probably going to end up running this deck at some point, but I don't know anything about Final Fantasy VI because that's not one of the ones that I played. I have played 7. Can't wait to see all the cards from 7 in here. I hope we get some like really cool equipment cards because equipment's really popular in all of the Final Fantasy games. So I'm really hoping that we get some cool like equipment cards out of this, some artifacts and all of that kind of stuff. And it's actually going to synergize with a lot of the cards that we see, specifically Cloud. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. Yustola is great. I love her in Final Fantasy XIV. I feel like my player character is basically like a purple-haired version of her because I did do a cat girl, but she's very goth, and I not like actually, but like if she looks at here, I love it. She's so cool. I love her, and her storyline is great. I haven't completed it. I don't know, like I'm not fully through Final Fantasy XIV. I think I'm nearing the end of the 2nd expansion is where I'm currently at. If I recall correctly, it's been a little bit of time since I've been able to play it, but that's basically where I'm at for anybody who is watching this who's a Final Fantasy fan and has played 14. That's about where I am. So I know her story continues. I know she's still around, but I don't really know where exactly that goes, and I'm very excited to find out because I absolutely love her character. Tidus is one of my all-time, just like Final Fantasy X is actually low-key one of my favorite Final Fantasies, even though I've played it only maybe twice, I think. But I really, really loved it. I think it was because Final Fantasy X was the first Final Fantasy game that I played completely through. And it blew my mind. I absolutely loved everything about it. We, of course, have the full foil versions of these commander decks, which I'm very excited for. And I do want to get my hands on, but I know they're going to be so expensive. I don't know how many of the bundles I'll end up picking up. I probably will buy like one gift bundle just because I can. Maybe, oh, you know what? I'll give it to Chaos Cultist. I'll buy a gift bundle and I'll actually gift it to somebody, and I'll gift it to Chaos Cultist because it's got some collector boosters in there, and we're going to want to build decks with these cards. So the more the merrier, right? Oh, I probably shouldn't have said that on camera. He will be editing this. Okay, chat, just he hopefully he won't watch this part specifically, like he won't zoom in on it or anything or like focus, and it can be our secret chat. It can, or I don't know why I'm calling you chat. I'm not doing this live. Those of you in the comments, it can be our secret, okay? Shh, don't tell him. All right, then we have the starter set, which again, I'm very excited that they're doing. And it does look like it's the same commander. Like I think Cloud is the same in both the commander deck as well as this. He's definitely still labeled as a legendary creature. And then the previous pack, which I'm excited for. I want to get that. Now, let's go ahead and I want to swap over to this page because we can look at all of the cards. We can even flip them around. And let's actually start talking about these cards because I think Wizards has done an excellent job here. Not only do these cards sound exciting as somebody who likes playing Magic the Gathering as just itself, like I like the game, period. But I also am a big fan of Final Fantasy, if that's not obvious at this point. And so the nods to little in-jokes, or not even really in-jokes, but just like the nod to various mechanics in the games, the nod to some of the art, bringing in the artists, all these various little things that Wizards has done really makes it feel like they're paying attention to both the Final Fantasy fans as well as their own core fan base who obviously want good cards to play with, especially going into a standard set, which this is going to be. One in particular that I just think is them doing great things mechanically as well as catering to Final Fantasy fans is the side quest Catch a Fish. Because if you played Final Fantasy 15, 15 I think it is, where it's the boy crew and they're going on their little road trip. This, like, you did this all the time. You fished so much and then you turned those ingredients into food, which is what happens here. You bring it to the campsite, which is exactly what you do in game, and then it gets cooked up and turned into a food, which is great because food is very useful in Magic. And I love this element of catching the fish, cooking the fish, and then turning it. Like, it's just so good. It's just so good. I also cannot wait. That's something I haven't even thought about. The tokens in this. I hope the tokens are lovely because I hope they're all Final Fantasy themed for like stuff like zombies and those kinds of things. Oh, it's going to be so good. All right, so we've got some Moogles as well, which if you're not familiar, Moogles are just like classic Final Fantasy. They've been around for ages. They have lifelink, which is great. They also you can pay 2 and tap them. The target opponent gains control of another target permanent you control. If they do, you then get to draw a card. So basically you're giving a card away from your board if your opponent can choose to take one of your cards. And if you do that, then you get to draw, which honestly I love. Fully fits the Moogles. Can we just talk about this glorious, adorable, full art design for the Moogle merchant? Like, this is why this particular set is going to be so painful for me because I want all of these cards. The art is so cute. It fits Final Fantasy so well. It fits the characters so well. I mean, even this does, because this is obviously meant to be sort of screenshotty. And it's not actually, but they're making the art feel like it's reminiscent to the in-world game, which I love. And I don't know. Everything about it's so good so far. All right, let's talk about the Shiva summons card that we saw, because I already chatted a little bit about how I really like that they're treating the summons as sagas because they're temporary creatures that you get to summon in game. And so I think that it's appropriate that they're not going to be permanent on your game board when it comes to your Magic game as well. But I want to talk now about like what Shiva is specifically doing, because I really like that you can go through the same saga thing, but you also can use her as an attacker because she actually has a 4/5. So she hits for 4. She has a 5 defense, which is great. She has Heavenly Strike, so you tap target creature an opponent controls and put a stun counter on it. Fantastic. You get to do that for 2 turns. And then on the 3rd turn, you get to do Diamond Dust. And of course, these are actual moves that Shiva has in game. Great that they're using that. Of course that they would. You get to draw a card for each tapped creature your opponent controls. So if you've been like able to tap a bunch of creatures, you could potentially draw like a bunch of cards and then do a bunch more things. Like I can see the synergy with this particular summon, and I can't wait to see the other ones. Because I really, I want to see what Ifrit does. I also want to see if they end up doing something where, Ifrit ends up pairing with Clyde, because that would be really cool. I hadn't even thought. We haven't seen any Clyde cards. Oh, I hope he's a commander. I want to build a Clyde deck. That would be so fun. All right, let's talk about some of the other cards, though, that we have as well, because some of these also flip. We have Cecile, the Dark Knight, who then gets redeemed and becomes the Paladin. Now, I'm actually not fully aware of Cecile's story. I think he's from one of the games that I haven't played, so I don't know too much about him, but I really like how he goes from what feels very Dark Elf to me to full-on just White Knight Paladin. I do really love that transition, and the card art looks glorious. But the card art for his anime version is superior, 100% in my opinion. I love how this card looks. And then, the anime-ness, it's so good. There's a particular era of anime game art that I love, and Final Fantasy firmly falls into that era when they were producing art. I mean, they still maintain that style because they've always sort of maintained that style, but this is so it, and it's perfect. Here's that Tonberry card that we had seen a little while ago. We have it's a creature. Tonberries are deadly. There's actually quite a number of deadly creatures. In fact, the cactar that we'll be looking at later is also quite nasty. But this guy is pretty fun because his chef's knife, during your turn, this creature has first strike and death touch, which is completely appropriate. There was a particular dungeon in Final Fantasy XIV that I was running with Chaos Cultist that I had forgotten how deadly Tonberries can be because it had been a while since I played a Final Fantasy game. And so jumping back into 14, I was like, oh yeah, Tonberries, they're cool, they're cute. They have their little pokey knives. Oh gosh, yeah, that pokey knife will just insta-kill you. And that definitely happened to me in that dungeon. Thankfully, it did not stop us from completing the dungeon, but I was royally embarrassed because I forgot and I got stabbed by one of the big ones. It was quite shameful. We have a full art version of the same one that we have here for Cecile, but they have it where it's the borderless, which is really cool. There's going to be a lot of, I think, iterations of some of these cards, which again makes me go, like, if you're spanning this over 16 different games, how did you pick and choose? And do you plan on doing a second one? Like, is there going to be a Final Fantasy wave, like, or are we going to get Final Fantasy 2 as like a set, like a future standard set? If we did, that would be awesome. I feel like that's probably only likely if this set does super well, and I have a feeling this set's going to do really, really well. Let's keep looking at our cards. We've got one of our red cards here with the Dragon of Mount Gulg, which is the card featuring Yoshitaka Amano's art, and I'm hoping there's many of these. Like, I hope there's a whole little mini collection. I would also love... Well, I wouldn't love this because it would mean that I'd have to spend more money, but I suspect they could do a secret layer drop easily of just his art, and I would buy it at least, and I imagine a lot of other people probably would too. So I'm really excited about that. Let's actually take a look at what the creature is, though. Obviously, he's got flying because he's a big old dragon, and we can see his wings there. Whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, roll a d20. You create a number of treasure tokens equal to the results. Oh. Nice. So you could potentially, like, you could crit and just make 20 treasure tokens. That's awesome. I hope the treasure tokens look super cool in the Final Fantasy art. That would be amazing. Now we're going to look at some of our green cards. The Jumbo Cactar. This is the guy that this card, what it does is so funny to me. It's a 7 cost, but it has 10,000 needles. Whenever this creature attacks, it gets plus 9,999 attack, but no extra defense until the end of turn. It insta-kills whatever it attacks. And that is so insanely appropriate for the Jumbo Cactar. I can't even begin to describe to you how accurate that is, and I love it. And also, I already said it once before, but I need this card. I need this Jumbo Cactar card by Yumeko because it's so good. I love what's going down, like, on even behind the border. Or behind the text box is what I meant to say. God, it's just so good. Saza's Chocobo. I'm expecting a lot of variations of Chocobo. I'm also expecting Chocobo equipment. Again, I feel like equipment might be a big deal for this particular set. And I'm excited about that because I think that's also going to synergize with some of the Marvel stuff that they're doing. I'm looking at you, Captain America card. But we've got landfall. Whenever a land you control enters, you put a +1/+1 on this creature, which is not bad. It can get very strong then, especially if you get it out early, which you could because it's a 1 cost. So that's pretty nice. Now we're going to look at some of the multicolor, and this is where we start getting into more of the characters, and I'm very excited. So Emmet is one I have not met yet in Final Fantasy XIV, but oh my gosh, I am so excited when we do. This is a little bit of a spoiler for me, but apparently he turns into Hades, which I am excited to see, and oh my gosh, does that look rad. Like, I cannot wait to just get my hands on these cards. Now, let's take a look at actually what he does. He's got Vigilance, and when he enters or attacks, you get to draw a card and then discard a card. And at the beginning of your upkeep, if there are 14 or more cards in your graveyard, you may transform him into Hades, which gets Vigilance and has the Echo of the Lost. I definitely read that as Echo of the Lust at first, but that is not correct. It is Echo of the Lost. During your turn, you may play cards from your graveyard, just period. If a card or token would be put into your graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead. All right. I mean, that makes sense. If you're in this form, you don't want to just like keep being able to recycle your dead cards, I suppose, which is probably why you end up exiling them. But not bad. That is pretty fun. And he's a blue-black. So I don't know actually how much I'll end up using this card because I don't tend to play a lot of blue decks, but who knows? Maybe this is the time to start. Garland, Knight of Corneo. Like I said, I don't know this character as much either because, again, I think he's from Final Fantasy 1. But this vibe, like, is what the judges look like in 12, as I mentioned. And I feel like the aesthetic for, I mean, even the villains in a section of 14, Sid's people, I can't remember what, the Garleans or something like that. I think it's something, it's not Garland, but it's Garlean or something like that. Very similar sounding, but they also have a little bit of this aesthetic going on. And that's just the vibe that Final Fantasy goes with for their antagonistic guys in all of their games. And I just think they're so cool. So he is, by the way, these are all legendary creatures, which means that you can build commander decks around them, which just sounds super fun. Again, I think there's going to be a ton of commander potential in this particular set. And I'm really excited to see what kind of decks people build. I'm also excited to see like what the full list is of the pre-existing commander decks that they're selling us ends up being, because I usually feel like Magic does a pretty good job with those. But Garland, whenever you cast a non-creature spell, Surveil 1, and then you can pay 3 plus 2 black and 2 red to return this card from your graveyard into the battlefield transformed. Active only as a sorcerer. Oh, okay. So he comes in transformed only from the graveyard. Interesting. So you want him to die. When he transforms, he turns into chaos, which has flying. And when chaos dies, put it on the bottom of its owner's library. So he can potentially come back in because you could end up shuffling your deck and moving him up. Fascinating. I do think there could be some fun things built around getting him into your graveyard, getting him back into your deck, and playing around with that kind of fun stuff. That could be cool. Then we've got Sin, which I love that Sin is one of the cards that they're previewing with because, well, I mean, it makes sense. Tidus is there. Sin's probably in the commander deck for Tidus is my guess. Hell, he might be the other commander that you can swap Tidus out for, which would be appropriate because spoilers for a game that's, God, is it over 20 years old now? It probably is. I played it along ancient times ago. But like spoilers for a game that's really, really old. Sin is Tidus's dad. Sad, but true. But I do like this card. It has flying. When Sid enters or attacks, you exile a permanent card from your graveyard at random, then create a tapped token that's a copy of that card. If the exiled card is a land card, then repeat the process. So you just aren't exiling, I guess, well, I mean, I guess you are exiling lands, but you don't get to copy them. Actually, I guess you would still get to copy it, but then you have to do it again because you're trying to copy creatures. Interesting. I'll have to ask Magic people if I'm understanding this card correctly, because I think that I am. I think you would get to do both, because then you create a tapped token that's a copy of that card. I guess, can tokens be land cards? That's the question I actually don't know the answer to, because I've never had that come up in a game before. So if you're a Magic fan, let me know down in the comments. Is that something you can do? Or am I misunderstanding this card horribly? What I'm not misunderstanding is how freaking cool the borderless art is. Because he's a big old monster. And I love the look of it. It's so, I think it's because it's very watercolor-esque, and that's really what's vibing with me when it comes to all these full art cards. They're very painterly. There he is. All right, we've got Emmett, but in his anime form, and just look how freaking cute he is. Really, really nice, like, this feels like it could have been a, who's the person who did Yuffie's? Because I forget, Umano, I believe his name is. I always forget his name. I always remember Amano, but I always forget the other guy. And it starts with a Y. Where is it? There she is. Tetsuya Nomura, sorry. Not a Y at all. Starts with an N. But Nomura, it feels reminiscent of Nomura's art. But he just looks adorable. Then, of course, he does transform into Hades, which, look how badass that is. I love it so much. There's a various versions of him as well as Garland, which we've looked at, and Sin. Basically, they all have full art, borderless versions, as well as their normal versions, as well as their fancy anime versions, which I want to collect them all, just like Pokemon. Now we need to start talking about my boy Cloud and my other boy, Sephiroth, because I really, really like these cards. Cloud in particular. Cloud, during your turn, as long as Cloud is equipped, it has double strike and indestructible, which is just great. He hits twice and you can't destroy him. Wonderful. Equipped abilities you activate that target Cloud cost 2 less to activate, which means a lot of equipment potentially is going to just auto-equip to him, which is insane. Because like if you synergize that with the fact that because he's going to always just have equipment, he's just going to always get double strike and always be indestructible, which means he's just not going anywhere, which I love. I really, really like that. And again, I sort of mentioned this a little bit earlier, but I want to reemphasize, I really like this particular mechanic around Cloud because I also feel like it's meant to synergize with the Secret Lair drop that was based around Marvel, because this feels very equivalent to Captain America. And since, like, imagine putting Captain America's shield on Cloud. That would be so cool. I just want to do it. I just want to get, I don't have those cards, so I obviously can't. But I just think that would be really, really fun. SEPHIROTH, on the other hand, has Vigilance. And when SEPHIROTH enters, creatures your opponent control get a -2/-2 until the end of turn. So if you're going up against somebody who's running a token deck, you could just annihilate their board potentially very easily with this guy just entering, which is fantastic. But it gets juicier because whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, you get to put a +1/+1 counter on SEPHIROTH. So imagine you are playing SEPHIROTH. You've got him as your commander deck. Your opponent is running a very token-heavy deck for some reason against you. Draw the luck or something. They didn't know what you were bringing, so they're running a really heavy token deck. It's all 1/1s or something real small like that. You bring SEPHIROTH in. He nukes 6 of them. He immediately becomes a +6/+6 on his already 4/4, making him a 10/10, and then he just keeps getting bigger. Like, it's just so good. It's so, like, I feel like they've really, really thought out these characters, made them appropriate to the character represented in the game, and made the mechanics just fit perfectly. I really, really like both Cloud and SEPHIROTH's cards, as well as the art for Cloud and SEPHIROTH's cards. Now, Cloud does have another different legendary, which I think this is the one of these is the one that you're getting in the commander deck. I think this one, these are the ones that are coming in the starter decks, I believe. Yes. Okay. I was correct with that, and I'm glad I wasn't wrong. So as you can see below, we have, these are only available in the starter decks. So you aren't getting, okay, I was wrong then earlier in the video. I thought maybe you would end up getting the same Commander Cloud card, but no, they're different. This, oh man. Okay, knowing that, oh wait, hold on. When Cloud enters, attach up to 1 target equipment you control. Okay, so he can still do that. And then when Cloud attacks, draw a card for each equipped attacking creature you control. Then if Cloud has power 7 or greater, create 2 treasure tokens. Okay, so yeah, they are different. This Cloud commander, I think, is going to be brutal and people are going to really want this. I think the starter set's going to sell like hotcakes because these are just really, really good. I'm curious what the SEPHIROTH then that might end up being in the commander deck will end up being. Also, notice that this is, you can't get this card anywhere but the starter deck. I'm definitely ordering 2 of the starter deck, I think. Just because I feel like I want one, and I honestly want Chaos Cultist to have another, like, of both of the decks, because, well, I mean, I guess that's not super necessary. I guess we only need one. But, oh my gosh, I'm really excited. I think people are going to want these cards, and I think we're going to see them in commander decks as just the commanders, because I think they're that good. We looked at Cloud's other commander deck. Let's look at Terra's. She's got Trance, which is at the beginning of combat. On your turn, mill 2 cards. Terra gains flying until the end of turn. Okay. So you're sacrificing 2 cards to gain flying, and then whenever Terra deals combat damage to a player, only a player, not to creatures, you may pay 2, and when you do, return target creature card with power 3 or less to your graveyard or battlefield tapped. Okay. To the battlefield tapped. I see. That's actually pretty fun as well. I do like that. Let's look at Tidus. At the beginning of your combat, on your turn, you may move a counter from the target creature you control onto the second target creature you control. And then he has Cheer. I wish it was like laugh, because you know that scene where he's like, ha, 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 ha. I just like, referencing that would be the piece de resistance. But Cheer is actually still pretty good because he does do that quite often. Whenever 1 or more creatures you control with a counter on them deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card and proliferate. Do this only once each turn. Okay, not bad. And Y'shtola has vigilance. Perfect. At the beginning of each end step, if the player lost 4 or more life this turn, you draw a card. Oh, so it doesn't even have to be you. So if you're in a 4-player game of Commander, that's going to be pretty spicy. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell with mana value 3 or greater, Y'shtola deals 2 damage to each opponent and you gain 2 life. Oh, okay. She's definitely my favorite of the 4 commanders. Sorry, Chaos Cultist, if you're watching this, I'm taking her. Oh, she's white, blue, black. Well, I'm going to have to learn blue. I'm going to have to learn blue because I love the sound of that commander. Of course, we have the full art versions of the characters as well, which look fantastic. I really do like the Tidus. He's so cute. He's so much more anime than the other 3. It's so funny to me. I don't know what the choice to make these guys slightly more like modern in-game realistic and then having Tidus be a little bit more like an anime character like some of the alt art ones. But you know what? I'll take it. Actually, speaking of, what is Tidus's alt character then look like? Because this Cloud is super freaking cute. This Terra is beautiful. Look at that. Oh my God. She is precious. There he is. Oh, he's so cute. He doesn't look that different from this one. Like they look still very, very similar in their full art. Oh my God, Y'shtola. I need that card so bad. Oh, can we also just appreciate that she's a cat warlock? So good. But these are all extremely fantastic. And the last one that we need to really take a look at is Yuffie. Because I also think Yuffie is wild and I want to see insane ninja decks with her. Because let's read what she does. Commander Ninjutsu, I don't know what that means. I assume they will explain it to us when the set releases, but I'm not familiar with Commander Ninjutsu. If that is something that is currently existing, let me know down in the comments. I would love to learn what it is. But additionally, whenever a ninja you control deals combat damage to a player, reveal the top card of your library and put that card into your hand. Each opponent loses life equal to that card's mana value. Imagine if you pulled like a 12/12 or something, or like a 12 cost card, and you just keep draining people's mana because you keep summoning ninjas. It would just be so amazing, and I am so very excited for this particular set to come out. The last thing that we have to take a look at is the food token, which is fully in the Final Fantasy form. And I really am excited to see what all the tokens look like because I expect this kind of treatment for all of them. It does exactly what a normal food token does. They just updated the art for it. But overall, that is what we're looking at for all of our Final Fantasy cards that we at least have seen now, or so far. It's what they've revealed to us so far. Clearly, there are a ton more to come out, but I am curious, are you guys excited for this particular set? Are you eager to be ripping open packs and pulling out cards? Or is this one that you're going to skip? How do you feel about the prices for this particular set? And what is your favorite card? Answer any of these questions down below in the comments, and I'll be sure to respond to as many of them as I can. Anyways, before I head out, I do want to thank both my patrons and my YouTube members for helping us create content like this. Without your guys' support, we would not be able to do this, so thank you very, very much. I have been Angela, and I hope you have a wonderful hobby night. Bye.